That is going to be the way it goes. This time, though, BBQ is on blue. And I believe that was MVP's choice to actually hop onto red. So, bit of a mix-up here the first time of the best of 5.
Does that mean that MVP don't have the same latitude to ban 3 engaged supports and not get punished? BBQ don't want to leave 2 strong champions open to the red side. They've staunchly been banning Ian's Aurelia. Played a lot of it in solo rank in the past month and a half since the LCK season has ended. Urgot not going to be first pick by BBQ either. Seems like it's not really a trump card that they have available to them. What will the final ban be on blue side?
Well, we got a lot of Aurelia, or rather, Aatrox, Urgot, Tahm Kench. But this time on blue side, they're going to go Aurelia, Urgot, Tahm Kench with that extra ban saying, you guys have to ban out Aatrox, which means
Rakan available.
Rakan is right there if they want to pick that up for Ignar.
They definitely put a lot of pressure into getting an engaged support. Not willing to give up Aatrox is MVP. So that is the reason for changing the side, and they get ostensibly what they're looking for. But what will their comeuppance be? Because a lot is left open. And it seems like no Kai'Sa Rakan will be left open, but however, that does mean that the Lovers bot lane cannot be star-crossed Lovers for the first time in a while.
It also means that ADD is going to get his second chance on the Ornn. Was able to win game 1 with this pick, but going to get another chance at it. Says, you got one more game left, MVP. Fighting, hotting.
Hotting?
Cute way to say fighting, which is fighting for you guys who are still confused.
Yeah, people around me will kind of interchange, but if Koreans are talking to Koreans, they'll usually say whiting, but people will say fighting because they obviously know I'm Western. Look at this one. Got the Lovers bot lane together. Don't think we're going to see the blind Wukong. Only Wukong I can remember in recent memory was Caps popping off on the pick. But what will BBQ choose in the first round? The Skarner's been contested, but I'm a huge fan of Skarner Ornn. I think Skarner against Ornn can often get so annoyed trying to make his way into a fight that you don't find the same value. I'm not sure I'm convinced on this, but it is comfort for Trick. Will we see a jungler first round for MVP or a support? This would be a support pick most likely. We see our first, I guess rework is a strong word, but our first tweaked Nautilus after the changes to how his W shield works. Supportless is what I expect. Mid lane Nautilus is played from time to time. Let's see where the Nautilus is going. It does feel like Ian could consider it. Probably going to be Yondu on the top lane Ornn, but I guess it could be support Ornn as well. So it's kind of a Scion under a different guise, but a Nautilus is locked in.
Well, this is not what I was expecting, but you talked about it before. Definitely some of the new ideas as we see a new patch in Korea can be shown in promotions. And it looks like MVP, definitely one of the teams to actually just try all the weird new stuff. And they did not disappoint tonight with this Nautilus. Very curious to see where it is going to go, as you mentioned. What else is going to happen? No more Vel'Koz this time around, actually banning that away from Ian, so they're not expecting any Nautilus mid shenanigans this time.
Second ban comes in, Syndra banned away by MVP, even though it is one of those trademark champions for Ian. Tempt has played plenty of it as well. BBQ do not want to go down fighting. They want to equalize this series in game number 4. Need something to combo with the Skarner. I gotta say, really feels like a Galio game for Tempt this time around with what they've already locked in. I think Galio is kind of the big pick for them, but MVP could actually fit a Galio into their comp as well. See what's happening here. Sejuani into the jungle. Will we see the Galio? I think both teams would really increase their chances of being able to turn on the mid game with that Galio.
MVP's comp would be very hilarious, I would say. They just have 4 beefcakes, 4 potatoes, and Kai'Sa. And, you know, you'll have enough damage amongst all of the beefcakes, mostly out of Kai'Sa. 95% would come out of that. It would just be protect the Kai'Sa without, you know, those traditional supports, I suppose you could say. Tempt gonna give another shot at the Azir here.
Won't take the Galio after all, which may mean that the frustrations of Trick will be pretty big in this game. They're actually considering the GP ostensibly against the Ornn. Could flex around here, could MVP. We still don't know for sure. It's not a mid-Nautilus. But they take the GP. Not a huge fan on this because I think it'll be really hard for Rakan and Skarner to do their job unless they find a lead in the early game. But MVP with so many flexes, will it be a supporterless? The answer is looking more and more like yes, but we can't know for sure. Mid lane Karma is a much more common pick for Ian. We haven't seen much of it recently. It's not quite 4 potatoes, but it seems like it's 3 potatoes and a shielding support for the Kai'Sa.
Interesting that they skip on all this before game number 4, but I suppose they eventually get that Kai'Sa and they say, okay, time to turn this on. They got the Kai'Sa in game number 2, but didn't quite go for a composition like this. It was more so Azir plus Kai'Sa.
Let's wait for 20 seconds to confirm it's mid lane Karma. That does seem like the most normal choice, but MVP don't always go for normal. No swap comes in, so Ian's on the Karma. A pick that people are saying Crown might default to if 3 of his champions are banned out. Is that mid lane Karma he's already loved? It is all about Pilot, and as someone who's played the Awesome Dude side, he now gets the opposite. Now everyone's really giving the back rub Valdez. This is what we talked about in game number 1, where AD carries today probably have more and more tools than ever before. We could see Ardent Sensor, Zeke's, Knight's Vow, everything put in to the Kai'Sa basket, and if we know anything about Kai'Sa, well, enough setup, she can knock down the dominoes and win the game straight up.
You get enough CC and support on a pick that just uses the item so well and scales pretty much perfectly into the late game. You're going to be one happy camper. Just got to make sure they don't go too far down in the early game. Ian, you've definitely seen from time to time some karmas. I still remember Kuzan, man. I still remember that game where he was 0-3. Got to avoid stuff like that, especially up against the Skarner and the Azir, especially after level 6. But we'll see how they handle it. Going into game number 4, MVP looking to reach tomorrow, and their dreams of LCK, they want to keep it alive.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
I feel like we almost have LCK level chants now. We were kind of missing those. How about level 1?
His skilled Q already has Max doing his best Blitzcrank impression here. Q probably the worst ability to have for lane because you can't actually influence the minion wave with the Q, short of missing a Q and I guess hooking over a minion, but W and E are definitely what you prefer for lane trades at level 1. Doesn't find any sort of a hook. Saw some people in solo queue trying Q max on the Nautilus. It makes your burst surprisingly large. E max was the last support build we would see, just to be able to get some trades in and influence the minion wave. Looking over at the Keystones and the runes, Aftershock, no surprise, onto Max. Could have considered Guardian, but he has the most CCs of any champion, so he procs Aftershock the most reliably. Around the Rift, we will have Summoner Airy onto Ian. Again, was nerfed between the LCK Regionals and also the Gauntlet compared to today.
Would like to see BBQ turn up the heat here. They have their own amount of scaling, which is something we didn't mention too much just yet, but Zaya's pretty good, but how about GP and Azir on top of that? It's pretty ridiculous once you think about it when you get to the late game. The side of MVP will have good scaling on the Kai'Sa, but BBQ will have 3 champions that are really happy to go late as well.
And I know one of my big failings as an analyst in spring season was really understanding the power level. Some of the Ardent Sensor or everyone behind the AD carry comp, the Karma comps that we saw much more commonly in spring than summer. I was so often guilty of saying, yeah, look at those 3 champions. They're really strong in the late game. But sometimes when you min-max everything on one, especially Kai'Sa, who just has some disgusting hyperscaling with the ability to reposition again and again, these comps can surprise you in the late game. So while, again, first thought in my head, you know, that little voice saying BBQ outscale, you can do some dirty things mid-game and late game with MVP's 5.
Yeah, I mean, Kai'Sa does a ridiculous amount of damage by herself, and if you're just holding down all the other 3 members on the other side and you kill them one by one, then the Kai'Sa can really get to you. Also, that giant shield in the late game when you just hop into the back line and all of a sudden Ghost doesn't exist, that's a bit of a problem too.
Seeing Yondu wrap around, I want to talk more about that, but we'll hold the thoughts for now as Yondu.
It's my time to shine.
Here's the dredge line.
Gonna get an ace Q on top of Ghost, as well as that Ignite. Looks like he's in a bunch of trouble. First blood is gonna go over to Yondu. Pretty much picture perfect. Nicely done from MVP.
Having that dredge line made that possible. Ghost had his summoner up, but his other summoners teleport, and I think he makes the right judgment call the moment he sees Sejuani coming. He would either flash early and then get flashed on by Sejuani, or straight up die to hold on to his summoner. Here is once again the wraparound. Dredge line hits, goes down in. How much practice do you have against supportless? Probably not too much. And the moment that that passive is procced by the Kai'Sa, you know you're done.
You're dead. Anyway, Papa, what were you saying?
So I think the reason why, again, the simple equation is, man, Azir's great late game. Man, GP and Xayah great late game. That's 3 more than 1. Again, you understand that theory, right? That's why I think my first thought is always
yeah.
3 is greater than 1. But the reality of a comp like MVPs is that as pilot, you really never do less than maximum damage in the late game. You never care about threats because you have so many shields that positioning is just, am I auto-attacking? If so, I'm in the right position. And that actually does trump 3 people on the enemy side that have a lot of CC to respect and don't min-max their damage as easily as you do when you have a Karma mid lane, when you have as hilariously tanky a team as MVP have. And that's, to me, what really puts sometimes these one hyper carry comps over the edge in the late game.
You mentioned no flash used here on the bottom side, and they're gonna be both safe against the gank there from Yondu. Sticking around for a counter gank, and then they thought that the Skarner was probably gone, came in for his own gank. Nice control ward play. But I can see what you're saying. So far, the CS lead down in the bottom side is going to be heavily favored to Ghost, as Pilot missed a little bit, it seems. Still has his TP.
The assists aren't necessarily going to be enough there to actually claim that one. It was Sejuani, so that is picked up by Yondu. Max, for all the kind of praise of supportless, and support Nautilus did get stronger on this patch because the Titan's Wrath cooldown got shorter. So while in the late game shields less, in a burst, it does do really nice things over the course of a laning phase. You can take trades a lot more reliably. Still doesn't have too much at level 3, level 4 for influencing the lane. You give the advantage to Xayah Rakan there. So a lot of respect shown to the tune of basically a minion wave lost for Ghost.
Crazy up on the top side. We've been talking a little bit about GPs in recent times. You know, do you go Grasp? Do you go the Klepto? What do you take second? Crazy going a mix of respect and not respect. The Klepto into the Ornn. It is a tank, so you can say, okay, like, I'm going to survive in this kind of lane. I'm going to hold that down. This Pilot does dodge, and this does fizz out, but takes Resolve second as well in the top side, so a little bit of respect, a little bit of survivability up against, you know, respecting the burst that Ornn does have alongside a gank from Yondu, but also did bring in that Klepto to try to scale up a little bit more alongside the Cull, actually.
You always want to go Klepto into a top lane tank that doesn't have a lot of solo kill pressure, which is Ornn most of the time, not all of the time, especially when the enemy jungler isn't high burst as well. So Sejuani Ornn is about the most respite you'll get as a GP, so you go the Klepto. Again, I'm also with the Resolve tree, whether it is going to be Chrysalis or the Second Wind as the second choice after the Bone Plating. Might as well go for a bit of respect. I don't think the Domination or Sorcery tree is enough to justify it. So I think he's made overall the right choice. I think Resolve here is too much when it comes to defensive choices. Worth noting also with the Karma that Karma had a lot of her numbers retuned away from support, where her level 1 mantra does a lot less oomph when it comes to the Q burst, but from there it does scale up fast, so at the end of the day, for mid lane Karma, that last round of Karma nerf doesn't really impact it outside the early game.
Crazy really having trouble CSing up on the top lane, actually. You can see that he is skipping multiple CS on the backside, just really respecting the amount of poke that ADD has. Ignar is Rakan, but he's actually had a vision here as Yondu, who was thinking about it. The flash forward is going to get that respect flash. Temps looking for the 1v1 in the mid lane. Goodbye our observers to find this one, and the Cannon Barrage comes in. Crazy actually going to pick up the alley-oop kill from the top lane. ADD is here, but I mean, Trick is level 6. Thought maybe he would go for the Impale, decides against it.
We missed the start of that play where the Shurima shuffle from Tempt got the Karma on the wrong side of the lane. Nicely played there. Here's the dredge line.
Oh man, that CC is pretty incredible. Look at how low he gets on top of the Ignite as well.
Well, that's a lot of burst. We still don't know what the max is here from Max. That's awkward to say, but I want to know if it's
the
Q.
max.
I think Q or E is what you max when you play the Nautilus support. E is the more reliable choice, but haven't been able to tell. The burst, regardless, was very impressive.
Seeing a lot of early Ocean Drakes in this series, actually. Looks like they may pick one up.
I'm gonna watch the replay here. Tempt just comes out of vision and says, I'll take a nice scoop of Tempt. And it works really well. Very nicely done by Tempt. Ian, by the time he flashes, is gonna die. GPO comes in. Very well played. MVP able to get the Drake as we inspect the previous kill.
Very nicely done, picking that one up. And all of that CS in the top side. I'm gonna hold that thought. Really nice engage here by Ignar. That's why you ban out that Rakan. The Feather Storm on the backside with the Ignite. Just gonna pick them up a kill in the bottom lane.
Nautilus may be able to engage, but peeling not so strong at. Very nice assertive play from Ignar, justifying the Xayah Rakan duo. Trick just there for moral support. They push it in, and Karma walks down just to clear out his minions and make sure they're not lost to the turret.
I hope we get a replay of that because I feel like you can't see the Rakan engage with Xayah Rakan enough because you'll just get caught by it over and over. I mean, it's how do you respect this? Just take a look at what Ignar does.
He's out of range of vision, shows himself now and says, this is my time to shine. Look at the fact that Max with his hook and auto with basically his entire kit can do nothing to interact with the Rakan. He doesn't have the depth charge. It wouldn't really have changed anything. Very nicely played from the side of BBQ.
It's definitely part of the reason why Xayah Rakan is just really strong.
Nautilus can also be annoyed by the fact that Ghost will be able to lift off through the depth charge as well. So a lot of value there in that untargetability. See how he navigates through that as the game goes on. Rift Herald going to be picked up off spawn at 10 minutes. Max finally level 6. He's got all ins of his own.
Question is, how do you actually lock someone down? You were talking about Xayah, but also the Rakan can hop away from a really long distance in the duo. Unless they're going for a really big tower dive, maybe with the Sejuani and Karma alongside of you, you could use that to engage. Otherwise, it's decent in the disengage. You know, get a Skarner just away from you before he can impale.
Ignar doesn't quite have the quickness. Going to be spotted on this control ward. His Trick, but are they too far up anyway?
Pilot, oh man, he doesn't have his flash. The flash comes in, Depth Charge does pretty much nothing. Knocks Trick up in the backside, but now here's Tempt looking for that play with the alley-oop. The last auto is going to get it anyway, so a double kill to BBQ in the bottom lane.
Silver Scrape's likelihood is going up. These members are getting ahead early game. No Stormrazor. MVP may have an Athene's Unholy Grail, but they need Pilot to hit 2 items before he's team fight ready. How much of the map is going to be lost before 2 items are done? Gonna watch the replay here. Didn't look like it was gonna work, but with the GP ult available, that little slow is enough. Pilot makes really good use of the killer instinct and does get away from Trick at least, but it's too little. Tempt has the nice roam down. The second kill is the icing on the cake. And in the picture-in-picture, no solo kill for Ian in the mid lane.
Nearly gets the Azir, which is funny enough. With his own Grail is just going to continue pushing in, actually. Is threatening Tempt underneath the turret. Already got a big chunk of damage onto this mid outer turret from the roam of Tempt. He's just continuing to put the pressure on. Like it from Ian.
Desperately need about 30,000 gold in this game to MVP, so 2 items on their AD carry and another support item onto Karma. And then in Kai'Sa we trust is what they've drafted for. They pigeonholed themselves to it. Neither team took the Galio, and for different reasons that might have helped both BBQ and MVP. But Trick and the bot lane here have really leveled up their performance in game number 4, and Yondu playing with fire on the top side.
Yondu just decides, hey, I'm going to take the Rift Herald, and, well, we'll see how this goes. Okay, we're going to have 5v5 double AD carry teleporting in. They're looking for the Skarner. Look at that damage on the front line. Pilot able to proc that passive. It looks like MVP looking to strike back in a big way.
The TP looks very assertive, but the Ornn ultimate zones anyone away from impact zone. Ignar can't get any. He actually didn't have quickness till now. Didn't have quickness in the fight. Poking through mid lane. Ghost has his ultimate.
Ghost definitely not respecting that karma, doesn't need to. Actually does a lot of damage to Ian here, but I like how MVP, how quickly they're pushing this through. Gonna get the first blood turret in the mid lane nonetheless.
Most of the work done by Ian, but cemented by the Rift Herald means the mid lane turret, which sometimes can go up till 35 minutes with an Azir, does go down. Hail of 2 TPs here. Xayah comes in, hoping to make something happen, but the Ornn ultimate in the early game might as well be the Rumble equalizer of Season 3 and Season 4. It wins the objective fight. Nicely done by MVP. They stick the landing with the mid lane turret, means more gold and a Storm Razor for Pilot.
Trick, not the most tanky, of course, that early on, but once he was that close to the pit looking for a steal, and then the Ornn channels that ultimate, that's the moment you know he's dead, because no flash, no ability to get out of there. Pretty much dead meat. Had to either get the call from his team to back away or just fully commit. But the rest of his team, as you mentioned, the zoning is just too good from the side of both Sejuani ultimate and Ornn ultimate. Straighten that one choke. So got to play that one better, I think.
Old matchup we saw quite a lot in some Azir metas was this Karma lane, where Karma just out-harasses because she puts down a Mantra Q and then E's while the soldiers are hitting her, and then she just wins the damage trade by about 400 each time, and eventually Azir just has a cart lane. Solo kill doesn't happen, but pressure, and that pressure that got the mid lane turret so low is what you get with this mid lane Karma. We already talked about where the comp is going in terms of Pilot hitting 2 items. Right now they're bot side, and Trick doesn't know.
Yeah, got to be careful about a dive like this. Flash and Feather Storm on Ghost right now. You got Trick waiting in the wings, Ignar coming down with his own roam. They'll be happy to take a second Drake instead. This is just MVP's day of Drakes, I suppose. Like Gen G, the World Qualifier, is going to be looking for this. We'll see if Tempt is able to come in with the steal, but they're looking for a con. Look at that damage coming on in. We were talking about that unexpected burst. We're already beginning to see it in tandem with just the W from the Kai'Sa and everything else. You lock someone down for so long and make it look really easy to take a kill.
No one to jump to there for Max. He will actually always go for Ignar, so whenever you see Xayah Rakan, you might think go for the 80 carry, but we know about her liftoff. The good thing if you go for Ignar is, if he uses Battle Dance to Xayah, she might share in the knockup, which is not what you want from that scenario. Here is the burst. Again, we haven't got confirmation on the skill order. You would assume, just like before E, if you look over at something like Pro Builds, because I was actually looking at Nautilus support a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I saw 1 or 2 Q maxes, but basically everyone else maxing E like the old days. This time, they catch Ignar, he goes down. 2 kills out of 3 have gone the way of the Kai'Sa. This Kai'Sa comp almost fully online.
Yeah, generally you would like some more time. You would love, you know, even if you get down 2,000 gold, you're saying, hey, I mean, that's not so bad. We're going to have the Kai'Sa eventually as long as we can hold on. Temps is trying his very hardest to stay in the LCK right now. It's just really hard. It's so hard.
Well, it's been hard for BBQ in summer of this year. Has been a failed experiment, this 5-man roster, but I hope to see some of these players, whether they're on BBQ or not next year, come back with a vengeance in 2019. Plenty of talent there, even if the 5-man roster hasn't worked. This is another one of those missions from Ignar. They don't know he's here.
I feel like they have an idea, though.
Oh, for sure.
Hanging around like, where the hell is this guy? ADD running out of mana, and you can see exactly what's going to happen eventually.
He just wants
TP is just hilariously happy up there.
So desperate to cash in that cull. Finally comes in and puts the gold lead over to BBQ, amusingly, purely because of the cull cash in.
Yeah. I like that. I feel like this is the next Papa Smithy build. Whenever you go top, you always build a call on anyone into any matchup.
I love hearing you say, oh, never mind.
Now, that might just be a dead Rakan again, as the damage is just too much. I mean, if you land a CC chain onto him, it's a Rakan, right? He's trying to build some armor. He's trying to get some survivability, but at the end of the day, if you just make the chain happen, he's going to die.
I like what I like, Valdez. I go for the cull on every top laner, and you can tell that MVP just ult the closest person. It's now been Ignar twice in a row, deleted off the face of this earth in a moment. Nautilus picking up the kill this time. Get the confirmation it is the Riptide Max. We watched the replay. We just saw this, guys. This is where all the buttons hit Ignar, and, well, after the first one, they're targeted.
feels like that solo queue game where the jungler will just not leave the bot lane too, because why not play around the Nautilus, right? You don't need to try to get in on an Azir who's going to be hopping away. You don't need to go top against a Gangplank who can deal with that. Might as well go where the damage and the CC is.
But it's even better. Who's next to the Nautilus but the person you desperately need to get some items? The Kai'Sa is able to now finish the QSS, so it's all about the Rage Blade timing, about 2,000 gold probably before MVP just throws all their pieces at the enemy between the depth charge, the Sejuani ultimate, and the Ornn ultimate. Something has to hit. Like, literally something.
Something's going to hit, yeah.
I mean, the depth charge is targeted, thankfully.
Otherwise, we might be in a little bit of problems here in the promotion tournament.
This is the losers match, so we're looking for a winner of the losers match, and that means tomorrow we will have a best of 5 between the winner of this match and Team Battle Comics waiting to face either MVP or BBQ. Looking more and more like MVP, but definitely not impossible for BBQ to win this game.
Yeah. Trying to use the power of chicken here, play a game of chicken with MVP, and somehow come back in the scaling war. We can scale better than you, they say, but not if you get behind, and not if the Kai'Sa gets the kills, as we were talking about. See how well Pilot can play. I really like that MVP choose to do this around Pilot, too, because he has been the one guy on this team that has stood out amongst the crowd, in my mind.
He's probably had the biggest jump in my expectation of a Korean player in 2018. When they did sign him, I said, okay, Maha, Pilot. In my head, they were basically the same power level of player, but after a slow start, just being subbed in and out a couple of times, Pilot really took off about halfway through spring season and had a great year, in spite of his team struggling around him. Double promotion tournament appearances doesn't really do justice to Pilot, but has played very well in 2018. After his stint over in PSG and then being kind of, I guess, kind of a harsh word, but irrelevant on Jin'e in the pre-Teddy era, it is nice to see him finally having a career resurgence after being a really hyped player when he started.
I mean, you were talking about players on these teams that may seek other teams in the future. I don't know about contracts for MVP, but if he were considering it, I know a lot of people were talking about Yondu maybe going to SKT, stuff like this. No rumors or anything out just yet, but ideas, you could say. Maybe Pilot will consider that as well if his contract is ready and available. Maybe he'll like to make the hop up to a team that is lacking a top-level 80 carry. No team really comes to mind, though, when I think about it right now.
Look, at the end of the day, a lot of big squads aren't going to Worlds. So right now they're in off-season speculation mode, right? Of SKT jungler, who are we going to get? And that contract information is public at the end of the day. You can go find the contract database, Riot makes it public. There's a lot of teams, TSM, SKT, big teams looking to change over players. Now's the time to start thinking about it before Worlds comes through. So by all means, feast your eyes, because there is a lot of talent out there. And certainly some of them are going to be desperate for a change when one team is going to be relegated at the end of today's series.
I was thinking maybe Afrika, you know, Aiming and Kramer haven't really impressed. It's really been the rest of the team, but not really sure if Pilot is above that level. I'm going to hold that thought, though, as ADD trying to go 1v5 here. They're really looking to cut him off, but great play trying to get away. Ignar is eventually going to find him and end his life. The rest of MVP say, sorry, buddy. Thanks for the Infernal. We'll take that and leave you to die.
Why did GP ult there? Why did
it's better not to ask questions, Papa.
No, I need to know. I desperately need to know why GP ulted there. I was making sure that GP wasn't on MVP's team. That's what I was thinking about there.
Well, he wanted to secure the kill, you know? He's trying to get...
is it a party barrage? Party barrage?
Party barrage, yeah, we can call it.
Again, remember that BBQ is the team with the GP.
Yeah, let's take another look here. Your face is really nice right now, Papa. It's fantastic. It's kind of born the everything from this series, I feel like. When you see that Cannon Barrage, definitely tells the story of what you've been through. You ready for Worlds, Papa?
Look, as you know, as the fans know, very verbose. I like telling stories and long anecdotes. I have nothing to say about that crazy choice. I think it's top 2 for him after his I'm playing Camille I'm going to dive into Jax. When I have no flash, he has flash and double buffs, and give over a free kill. This is a contender next to that play.
Definitely one of the guys that is going to be focused on improving. I mean, he looked okay at the beginning of spring, I would say, on Camille. Towards the end of summer, though, something went wrong along the way. Maybe part of it is being stuck on BBQ, you know, just not really feeling good on the team. Maybe the passion is waning, but we'll see how he is in 2019. I'm just looking for excuses as I go along, you know. Papa's just letting me talk, seeing how far I can go.
GP ult's back up, baby.
You're only as good as your last GP ult, right? Speaking of which, Skarner looking to make the play here. Trick not able to kill ADD with that one. That time the Cannon Barrage was good.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
And on the side here, no way to maneuver Kai'Sa over, so remember that MVP is follow the Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa dies, MVP lose. If Kai'Sa doesn't die, MVP win. Very simple when it comes to these team fights.
Yeah. It's not the funnel. I was watching, what was it called? Overrated, Underrated with Reckless and Soaz, and they were talking about funnel. They were like, that was extremely underrated because we should have just done it every single game. It was insanely broken, especially for Kai'Sa. And I mean, you can kind of see the effect. It's just nowadays you can't do the funnel, so you need to have a comp that actually gets to the late game instead of just boosting your way there through funneling.
The funnel was all about, if you do the funnel perfectly, you always win. There was a lot of counterplay to it, but if the funnel hit its checklist, you just won the game. So I can understand that theory because you didn't have to really interact with the enemy team, and if the enemy team didn't make the right choice, you just win. So yeah, that is no longer a thing in League of Legends, but a big Kai'Sa, you know, it's not quite a Juggernaut comp, but a Protect the Kai'Sa comp where she can open up with shields, on sensor, everything for the Kai'Sa. Still a very viable strategy. Waiting to see that opening up though. She's hit her items, but they have to choose the right time to make this work.
They knew that MVP was in the bush, actually, the one ward on the left side. You can see, did spot them going in and out of the bush, so there was enough information for BBQ to play safely and not make the mistake of face checking. Gonna go and clear out some of that Baron vision now. BBQ do have some of their own ways to get in. I feel like the Skarner and the Rakan specifically, Trick has been a little bit better outside of the mistake around Rift Herald. And Ignar has been showing, like, hey, you finally gave me Rakan. I'm here to play. I'm here to carry my team back into LCK. If they continue to get some good picks like they have been, definitely a chance for BBQ to come back.
It's a bit more conditional because they don't have the Ornn as the kind of starter, and then the Skarner to end it during that Ornn ultimate. So I think they need to come out of vision a bit more. We saw already Ignar making some Mega Solid plays around the Drake pit earlier. MVP can stuff a lot of engage with that Ornn and have plenty of engage themselves. So with Pilot putting on his next item, this is a time compared to when we criticized Prey for going for the no QSS build into the Hurricane. This is definitely a Hurricane game with all the shields that Pilot has.
Ignar's trying to play with the spoon. It's really just baiting for Trick. Yondu says, okay, I'll trade my ultimate, but the flash on in. But the engage onto Ignar, he's gonna disappear as they turn him back to bait it on in. Tempt just gonna Emperor's Divide to stay alive in this one. Crazy not able to link up the barrels, wouldn't have landed anyway. And MVP gonna get ahead here 5-3. They're looking at Baron.
May I present to you a Kai'Sa comp that got exactly the engage they were looking for. Trick thought he was going in. Nope, it was all a debate. We turn on to the Baron, though. Let's see if they can actually interrupt this. There is no smite from the side of BBQ.
No smite at all. It's going to have to come down to burst damage. They don't have that much. They get the hook now on the Ghost, and he's going to have to flash away. In fact, MVP just killed a damn Baron, deciding, no, let's fight instead. And again, there is a lot of damage on the backside. You got a Azir, you got a Xayah, and a GP. They don't want to deal with it, not going to take the risk. They'll back off for the next time.
Compared to the last time where it did seem like finishing the Baron, because it's the Azir, like you mentioned, I think maybe this is the right call here. Could have understood both. We watched the replay and notice that when this starts, MVP get to fight in formation and BBQ don't. And that's the thing. Nicely done by Max to stuff the secondary engage. Pilot opens up. Pilot does his thing even with only 2 items. They can't go further because the Emperor's Divide timing is very good. But MVP back away with 2 kills, no more. No big objective in the end.
Yeah, they're going to get a couple of kills on that one, as you said. Only an Ocean Drake here. Could consider killing it for now, but maybe you just want to make that Elder spawn instead. Looks like they're going to add another Drake to it, as they're pretty confident in their position in the game right now.
Praise Karma. 2,000 damage in the last fight. Pilot able to finish off a kill. The Observer noted that the Infinity Edge is done for Ghost, so he's at a very good power juncture himself. But the only people he should be hitting should have pretty fat shields or just have a lot of tank items, and that means more difficult to, or at least slower to get any kills. The GP not going to be a frontliner, the Skarner not a frontliner. In fact, 5 non-frontliners should be easy food for Pilot to take out. He himself has that frontline build we talked about with the Hurricane. So now, you need to be even more judicious with the time you choose to go in if you're BBQ. If both your engages don't hit Pilot, you might just be done.
It's definitely a good point. You were talking about the beefcakes, the tanks that have that amount of armor. It looks like maybe Ghost goes into a QSS next. I mean, he already has that No Magic Mantle, and then eventually get into some kind of armor penetration. MVP gonna go for a TP in here from Ian, considering rushing down the Baron. There is a nice little ward there from BBQ to spot them in the river.
They don't take much damage from Baron, and they turn from Baron well, and it's easy to fight formation if you just kite back in one way and Kai'Sa does the rest. So you understand why controlling the Baron pit is so important for MVP.
Whoa.
We're zooming way out to show that the minions are pushing up to the inner turret in bot. Yondu just throws out an ult, whoever's good.
Drake got a little bit close to the sun, but now he's gonna impale ADD. Where is the follow-up? The Cannon Barrage zoning a lot of members of MVP out, not willing to go through that Cannon Barrage. Now Yondu in a bit of trouble here, doesn't have his flash. They have the damage to take him out.
Because of the separation of the GP ult, no one went in, and ADD and Yondu's health bar are for naught. Now we get the reverse situation with 2 dead and Smite available for the side of BBQ.
They'll definitely look to at least make a play around this. We'll see if they rush down the Baron or decide to turn. Already Emperor's Dividing a lot taken away. Pilot looking at
behind the
frontline.
pit too.
It's hard to run in there. You got 3 of the soldiers, but look at the damage coming out of Max and Pilot.
The shield!
Unbelievable! This is what the Kai'Sa can do. I don't care about your smite, says Kai'Sa. Pilot goes 1v5 with the help of his friends. What is this Kai'Sa? Whoa, man!
Did he get a pentakill and the Baron, or was it a quadra and the Baron? I couldn't tell.
It was everything, man. He just took his cake and ate it too.
I think he got a penta and the Baron.
This is the moment where the Korean LCK crowd realized Kai'Sa's OP.
This is what we knew about this comp, and it opens up. They're behind the pit taking extra damage, and he kills everyone and the Baron.
Well, I guess that's the way it ends, huh, Papa Smithy? This is not the end of the story that I expected, but they're not going to go for the inhibitor. They're going to be respectful. Pilot goes in there, kills everybody.
I think it might have been a quadra. Let's see the kill secures here. But they're behind the pit taking extra damage. Let's see if Nautilus actually takes a Baron. Pilot comes in. Watch the shield from the Mantra. It comes in for a bajillion health. It doubles Pilot's health because he also has his ultimate. They come in here. He takes down everyone. Ends up being, I believe, a quadra and the Baron for Pilot. Insane stuff from MVP.
Quadra in there. I mean, we were focusing on Pilot, but really it was Max that got it all started. He hooked Azir first off, and then he depth charged 4 people, right? So all of that upfront damage that could have burst down Kai'Sa before the shield or even through the shield, it was all CC'd the entire time, and man, this Nautilus looks really powerful.
Why did they go behind the pit, Valdez? That's the extra damage.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. They were lambs to the slaughter, and MVP said, thank you very much, murdered everyone, and they take the inhibitor in mid.
Definitely feels like the spirit of BBQ was broken after that one. Really hard to come back from basically a penta from Pilot. Someone else, someone unworthy, you could say, stole a kill along the way. That was supposed to be the 80 carries kill, but either way, it was just a one-sided ace, and really the shield was the key moment. You just zoom in on that, and you just play the outro music on the sitcom that we're in here.
You remember how I talked about that last year before Worlds, we had the Nasus versus Maokai that we saw at Worlds, and we felt like something would come up? I'm 100% certain that Gen.G is watching this game, and Crown is saying, wait, I play Karma, and Rule is pretty good.
You play Kaisa? We can make this work. I'm going to try to wave clear here. The Impale is going to kill ADD. So at the end of the day, trying to siege in here is pretty hard up against Azir. But how about Pilot with that shield? Did he go too far? Yes. The answer is absolutely yes.
They're going to chase for kills here.
Trying to get in range, but at the end of the day, the shield's once again going to be pretty big. He gets his whole health bar back. And let's continue the push. Why not? We don't need ADD.
He can join in 30 seconds. It's about 2 minion waves, but you can see MVP are going to be a bit more respectful here. Minion wave pushing in the top side. Does dissuade them for now. They get back off. Pilot's got one more item to buy. Why would he stay bot lane?
Yeah.
As we're going to see the replay here. Featherstorm is just as important a zone to respect as the Ornn ultimate. He uses it only onto GP. Kind of a waste. And they just take a kill, and they do plenty of damage too. We did mention that 3 is greater than 1 when it comes to amount of hyper carries. In this particular fight, the tank wastes his health bar, and Pilot has to flash, so a good moment comes through from MVP. But 17,000, now 18,000 gold in 34 minutes for Pilot. I think he might have Infinity Edge.
410 CS at 34 minutes too. He's going to complete that Infinity Edge and just...
Man. He is a god of damage. And we talked about in game 1, if you joined us then, how AD carries love to have everything served up for them. He doesn't have a heal from Max. Max won't ignite himself. But let's start counting all the things he does have. He has Ardent Sensor, Athene's, Zeke's Convergence, Knight's Vow is what he's getting from his team. And of course, that doesn't include all the shields coming through from Ian.
Yeah. Is there even another item that they could have mixed in?
No. You know what? He even has Ornn to give him another item to buy.
There you go. This composition's OP.
Got double Infernal as well. This is the definition of the game that made me reevaluate 3 hyper carries versus 1 hyper carry.
Yeah. Definitely feels that way.
Where's his locket? Come on, team. You're letting him down.
Yeah, that was the one thing. The locket.
Where's his locket at?
Come on, Sejuani. What are you doing? Building MR? What a waste. Spilled more health than a locket. It's your only use in this game.
Well,
poor Yondu.
Poor Pilot.
Poor rest of the team. How about ADD 0, 3, and 1? Is he doing his job? I guess so.
If the Ornn ultimate is pressed, it's pretty good. Well, where's that Ornn ultimate finish here for Pilot? I guess he needs another 1,000 gold for the red pot and the Infinity Edge. Looking at the gold lead here from MVP that definitely took a turn. We went from 2,000 gold advantage at 31 minutes to a 5,000 gold advantage 2 minutes later. Big swing coming through for MVP.
Yeah.
He's got his own ultimate. Sorry, own item, I would assume.
Let's see him pick that up.
No, he's actually playing around with things, so now actually has the rapid fire cannon mixed into the build. Whoa, that was just trolled by the observer.
Ooh, look, it's a Nautilus.
It's like he was showing off a jewel or something.
Yeah.
Shiny.
Got to get all the angles, you know.
Well, that's a 100% crit coming through from Pilot now. He is the epitome of a big deal. This is the guy that no one needs to introduce you to at the party. Everyone knows who he is. He's wearing some really nice clothes. He is he's the belle of the ball for sure.
Yeah.
BBQ though, they've got some strong men on their side as well. Now we've seen MVP make a couple of mistakes with how they approach these fights. They need the Ornn ultimate and the Sejuani and the Nautilus, at least 2 out of 3 at once to force something to happen on the side of BBQ.
How about bot lane? Oh boy, Crazy, you went way too far. Prepared to go down as there is no escape. Cannon Barrage does 0. And they just lost their gangplank for a full 60 seconds. MVP definitely could just walk up to the Baron, take it away, and try to push on to the victory.
That will give the biggest numbers to the side of Pilot. So for now, at least, they're considering that Azir Xayah can delay games forever. So Baron probably ends up being the safest choice. It just spawned. So good call, Valdez. I think they're going to lap it up, just like you mentioned.
The rest of BBQ is down on the bottom side, trying to push, I guess, away from the Baron. They don't feel like they have any business being around this Baron trying to 4v5. Really
Man,
no reason.
We didn't even notice 5 Drakes this game also, so gonna hit some records when it comes to fed Kaisers.
Yeah.
This is gonna be an ungodly Kaiser. Where's the locket at? We still ask MVP. I believe that's probably what Max is buying. Given its second Aegis, it's definitely going to be a locket. This is what we call the bus in Korea.
You might as well.
It's a Kaiser bus, a pilot bus, and it's being ridden by the other 4.
What if they just go into the match against Battle Comics and try to do this 3 times? I mean, eventually you just ban Kaisa. You would hope, but Afrika has different ideas when it comes to that. We saw in the spring finals. They refused to do exactly that.
Do wonder how the former ESC ever, now BBQ Oliver's squad will change going into Challenger. Seems impossible for the same 7-8-man squad to come together. MVP don't want to walk up. Kaisa not the longest range. Karma doesn't want to walk up for autos, wants to speed peeling and putting shields onto Pilot. So despite a couple of good moments in a row, the Baron hasn't led to anything, and we're seeing defensive pings, so apparently we're not getting any inhibitors anytime soon.
I mean, I think immediately you have to identify the bottom lane is pushing. Someone's got to be there. I mean, look at the top lane, too. The one thing that BBQ did instead of trying to fight a Baron was they set up the waves perfectly to deny as much time away from MVP's Baron push as possible. Eventually, now they're going to come in, and of course, they are running triple teleport. Pilot, Ian, and ADD have it, so at a moment's notice, they could just all group up in the top lane as long as nobody gets caught out.
I do like that you pointed that out, because making a proactive move with getting your side lanes in the right position is something I think a lot of teams overlook when they're like, ah, crap, we gave up the Baron. I guess we get nothing. They got something because they wasted a minute and a half of Baron. 2 minutes of Baron basically is completely wasted because they got their side lanes in order. Will it win them the game? Probably not. Will it affect the game? Certainly.
Nice TP on in. We got 4 members up on the top side now from MVP. Slowly looking to push in. Pilot with a massive shield just wants to chunk that turret as much as humanly possible without getting into danger.
Dies in the blink of an eye, but the inhibitor line stays strong. Now cresting 40 minutes. Only a minute of Baron left. Powering through a turret with the full defense of Ghost and Tempt is something that MVP right now clearly don't want to opt into. Backing off here, they'll take an Elder. It is an insanely high value Elder. Short of 3 Infernals, you couldn't really ask for much more.
Oh, and look at this. There's no vision around the Elder, 2-0. And that means that BBQ, if they want to fight this, which they're going to have to, they're going to only find it now. Not a very clean engage, though, from MVP. That was their moment. Yandu already using his Glacial Prison now. They're going to be down in ultimate. They still burn down this Drake so unbelievably fast, though. Going to come down to smites. They're going to go actually turn on the Trick, who just disappears in the blink of an eye. All those carries on the side of BBQ not able to do the damage. Yandu is able to smite it away, and now it's 5-on-4 for about a minute's time.
590 AD when he was at 6 stacks of the Ginsu's Rage. That is how big the Kaisa is. Basically every single species in the world would be extinct if Pilot had his time with them. They die in the blink of an eye. They push through here, and it does seem like 1 with friends seems to be better than 3 once again.
That is the way that it is gonna fall down here. The entire base in shambles now. Don't even need the Baron when you have this much Elder pressure. Might as well take the inhibitor, take the safe approach here, MVP. You have a lot of time to go into this one. Pilot now unbelievably strong. They're just gonna go ahead and try to push all these 3 lanes.
Going for the tutorial victory. This would be such a cathartic moment for MVP fans who remember we're in a 9 best-of-3 losing streak. That is an entire round robin. They lost 8 in a row and then lost the first match in this tournament. So 9 best-of-3s is a huge amount of matches. You put it together, the minimum that is 18, an entire NALCS season of matches they lost in a row. But we're getting some cool angles here because they're just getting ready for a Pilot pop-off video for when the game ends.
All right, Observer. Okay, thank you. The unfortunate reality for MVP, though, is when you don't have Baron, these minions just disappear to 0. I mean, they're just not going to exist. Somebody has to tank if you want to take out the turret. That's exactly what they're going to do, even when they do not have the minions.
Still, they're pushing out the minions here pretty admirably, such as Zaya and Azir. Pilot walks up. He might be taking turret aggro. It's hard to tell.
The shields are taking the turret aggro, basically. So nobody can get into range. The barrel's just helping out and pushing. They're going to use that Ornn ultimate to zone. They take out that final inhibitor turret, and they're going to find Rakan as well. See you later. Trick also unbelievably low. And he just basically one-shot Temps 2 on the backside. Not sure if you guys saw that, but Pilot is a monster right now.
People are accidentally dying to Pilot. He walks up. Got the Storm to get through the damage.
Okay, Trick trying his best, but it's pretty much a last stands here. Crazy actually doing the damage with his barrel. That was the moment. Tempt gonna get locked up. Pilot, doesn't matter if he's low, he takes him out. And it looks like, guys, we will have our first one dropping out of LCK. BBQ will be the one. MVP keep their hopes alive on the backside here. Pilot still going ham in the pits, and MVP will get one final chance as Pilot gets one final kill to go back into LCK.
By the end, BBQ Olivers were lambs to the slaughter that only Pilot was qualified to inflict. Congratulations to MVP. They may not look quite as good as you might have expected a few days ago, but they ready their performance. They're the better team over the course of 4 games. No one is smiling because they have to back this up with an impressive performance tomorrow. Battle Comics versus MVP for the final spot in LCK 2019.
It's definitely that last question that remains to be answered. Who is going to make it through? Definitely some forlorn looks on the side of BBQ. They thought they had the scaling comp. No, they lost to the Kai'Sa.
Being relegated, the first team out of LCK, obviously is pretty embarrassing for some of these players. A year ago, there was, of course, the famous run of Misfits facing SKT in a 5-game series, quarterfinals of Worlds. Trick had a very proud career over in EU. They came back to try to make something happen with the BBQ Olivers organization. And today we get the confirmation that it was, of course, basically the polar opposite. They are relegated out of the LCK. ESC Ever into BBQ end their proud 2.5-year stint in the top of LCK. Will we see any of these players in Challenger together or even in LCK under different teams? We'll find out sometime later in the year or early next year.
Unfortunately, the light goes out on the BBQ Olivers sign there. The logo will have to go down into Challengers. We don't have a list for that. Only the LCK list is on the wall. That means only one of the 2 teams, MVP or Battle Comics, will make it into LCK, of course. MVP, still a lot to work on. They don't have much time until they have to go up against Battle Comics tomorrow. Definitely Dove and On Fleek are the 2 big names that are keeping you away from LCK. I think if you can study those 2 guys play, especially On Fleek, and the way he runs the jungle, MVP could have a chance to make it back in LCK.
This is the team that beat them 2-0, though, you'll remember, at the start of this tournament to start the surprises that led to both LCK teams being in today's losers best of 5. The Yondu of a few days ago will not beat OnFlake, but the Yondu of today, if he continues to work up, the best of Yondu could be competitive against OnFlake. But you give the jungle advantage there to the side of Team Battle Comics. Still really hard to work out Battle Comics to a 3-3 overall in this tournament, a 2-0 win into a 3-1 loss. I think the best of them has been slightly better than MVP, but MVP can innovate. I really like the last comp here, and if you throw away the everyone's a melee comp, maybe things can work for MVP.
We tend to agree. Maybe if they played a little bit more standardly or just played Protect the Kai'Sa comps every game, could definitely work out. Started off really well for Yondu. The one thing in this series that I was happy about was that Yondu actually impressed me compared to his games up against Battle Comics. He had a much better series here in 4 games. A bunch of Sejuani games, but definitely did his job.
Took a while to get going, but I feel like we were correct in our analysis of where this comp was going and reminded that 3 hyper carries can be beaten by 1 hyper carry who doesn't have to think about positioning for anything more than, I have 100% crit, who wants some of this? That's all he had to think about in team fights. The answer was no one on the side of BBQ, and no one could ever burst through. probably over a team fight, 9,000 health because of all the shields again and again, because of the damage redirection to other people. You had to dump so much damage into the Kai'Sa, and yet it was never enough. This was the big mistake from BBQ, where they went behind the pit to take bonus damage, and Pilot said, thank you very much, I'll get a Quadra and the Baron. Game ends eventually, but from that moment, there was only one team in the running, and that team was MVP.
Ghost trying his best to fight up against Kai'Sa with that kind of composition, but even he couldn't do enough damage. Crazy really was the one that was threatening them on the backside, but you get any CC, just what we were talking about. All this crowd control and ability to keep Pilot alive was just good enough to do the job. And there you have it, guys. You see the pick ban. No gold yet has been counted, it seems. And
the Baron also not on there, but
yeah,
you still know it went the way of MVP. That was the more important thing, so congratulations to them. They stay alive into the final best of 5 of Korean League of Legends for 2019. Will be played tomorrow, same time, 5 p.m. Korean Standard Time on a Saturday. Will be that final match. You guys are going to look at our lovely faces in just a second as we wrap it up. No interviews today, guys, because, of course, these teams want to get home and start prepping, MVP especially. You need to get home as fast as possible. They're just going to come straight through the camera. Get through that, Pilot. You deserve it. After that game, they want to go home and start prepping for tomorrow because they got another best of 5 to think about.
After that one, he can do whatever he wants. MVP, I love the neon lights kind of theme we have going on for promotions. Trying to light it up and go green are all these teams in the LCK. You see that, yeah, the one game that they lost took 53 minutes, and that was up against a lot of scaling, as you mentioned. Battle Comics up against MVP. That is tomorrow, guys. Same time, same place. Should be a pretty fun one. I would expect that one to be relatively, even in terms of, I think, Battle Comics and MVP on a similar level right now.
And the last game will definitely put thoughts into the mind of the Battle Comics coach. Do you need to ban Karma? Such a weird ban, but the Kai'Sa, is that enough? Can you ban Kai'Sa? A lot of AD carries can't quite do Kai'Sa levels of carrying, but Kog'Maw famously in the past. Other long-range carries, Varus can make comps like this work. You remember in spring season, KSV at the time would run a lot of Varus Karma and still be able to make it work. So there's no denial that we might be seeing more and more. The Ardent meta won't be there for Worlds in the same way, but maybe we'll be seeing some of these supportive mid laners have a pretty decent laning phase, like the Karma come back again. Lots of things to wonder about, and the same sort of thoughts of the MVP coaching staff of just how to shackle OnFleek, who, if OnFleek gets a good start, he seems to end the game with a win.
You got to shut that guy down somehow, some way. In the beginning of this whole tournament, the promotions, OnFleek kind of shut Yondu down in a big way. So even though Yondu looked a lot better up against Trick, that was up against a guy who was sitting back a bit, farming, playing stuff like Sejuani, the Skarner, and other picks like that that are going to farm and not really get in your face. OnFleek, he's playing Xin Zhao, he's playing Camille, he's playing in your face Lee Sin,
Jax.
Right? Jax, he's going to be in your jungle, and Yondu didn't really handle that. Not only Yondu, but the entire team didn't really handle that very well. So this may just be a case of Battle Comics counter MVP. Now, we haven't seen enough of these two teams fighting head-to-head, but I feel like that is definitely one of the storylines that could come to fruition tomorrow.
If you look at top 5 of Challenger right now, 4 Griffin players and Jug King, who isn't technically identified on OPGG. I have it under good authority that it is, in fact, OnFleek. So shows you that his mechanics are there. We know already his performance has caused basically every SKT fan to say, oh, I found a new jungler.
Yeah.
By watching the promotion
Definitely.
tournament. Good job, guys. You nailed it. We'll see. Yeah. I think we'll see him in LCK one way or the other next year. But if it's the MVP of a few days ago, we're going to be seeing Battle Comics. If it's the MVP of today, I think we're going to be seeing 5 games. It could be a really close final Korean League of Legends series before we just send it all off to play-ins and Worlds and where the game goes from there.
It's going to be a long one for sure. I would expect it to be close tomorrow. Make sure to join us then at the same time. And thank you for sitting with us for MVP versus BBQ. It was a fun, bit of a longer one today. Lots of long games. Thank you once again for watching. And we'll see you guys next time.